Okay, ALD Issue 8, Success. Text 2, Angela Duckworth, Part 3. The grittiest college students. When college is hard, grit helps, according to Angela Duckworth's research. In fact, people who succeed in getting associate's degrees, that's a two-year degree, and a bachelor's of 4 years, 6 years, master's, etc. People who succeed in getting associate's degrees are, on average, more gritty than people who get bachelor's degrees, according to Duckworth's research. It takes as much grit to get an associate's degree as it does to get a PhD. Okay, so think about what that's saying. A 2-year degree takes as much grit as a 10-year degree. PhD is a 10-year degree. What? How is that possible? Let's read the explanation. Graduating from a 2-year college versus a 4-year college is a much greater difference than people might imagine, says Duckworth. Community colleges are full of students who are a lot like the students at Yes Prep and the other urban charter schools Duckworth is studying. What do they have in common? See the colon? First-generation college students from poor families who have to balance work and family while going to school. The community college dropout rate is high. The community college dropout rate is high. If you're going to get through a 2-year college where the attrition, okay, graduation, dropout, attrition is dropout, see, attrition, dropout, okay. If you're going to get through a 2-year college where the attrition rate is 50 or maybe even 75%, maybe you do need more grit to surmount all those obstacles, says Duckworth. In other words, at a 4-year college, the dropout rate is much lower than at a 2-year college. If you're at a 2-year college, it takes a lot to stick with it. The people around you are dropping out. Learning to be gritty. It's not clear what makes some people grittier than others, but Angela Duckworth believes grit is something people can probably learn. She says every human quality that has been studied has proven to be affected, at least in part, by a person's environment, even intelligence. In addition, people change over time. So your environment, it also affects your intelligence. Okay, and people change. Think about things about your personality, like, I'm a pretty extroverted person, says Duckworth. Well, how fixed is that? And do you know what extroverted versus introverted means? Extro means outside, like the word exit, means out. And the opposite of that is introverted. So your focus goes inside yourself, or your focus goes outside to other people. So extroverted people seem to be friendly. It's easy for them to talk to people. They can get along with anyone. Introverted people, like myself, if you didn't know this, like to read, like quiet, don't necessarily want to be around a lot of people. And yet I'm a teacher. So how fixed is that, is the question. Just because your personality is one way, does that mean you will always be that way? No, people change over time. It turns out a personality trait, like extroversion, can change a lot over a person's life. If you look at large population data, people get more or less extroverted over time, says Duckworth. There's no reason to think that grit is any different. So in other words, the older people get, they become more extroverted. It's easier to talk to other people. She believes grit can wax and wane. It can become greater and smaller. And if you don't know this, what does wax and wane refer to? If you said the moon, there's my red moon, you're right. Because the moon goes from full, right, to, I forget what that's called, gibbous, and then crescent, and then nothing, and then back to full. Okay, so it waxes, it wanes, and then it waxes. It gets bigger again. That is what that means. Now you know. Waxes and wanes. Okay, she believes grit can wax and wane in response to experiences. What you experience in your life can determine your grit. In addition, people might be gritty about some things and not others. Some people may be gritty about their sports that they play, but they may not be gritty about math class or English work or something like that. I've always been gritty about my education, but I have not been gritty about, exercising every day. Okay. You can see a child be exceptionally self-disciplined about their basketball practicing, and yet, when you see them in math class, they give up at the slightest frustration, says Duckworth. That makes sense to you, doesn't it? We have things that we're more gritty about than others. Donald Kemmons, director of college initiatives at Yes Prep, says students he's worked with are some of the grittiest people he's ever met. They deal with things and persevere through situations that most people would find insurmountable. Okay? Meaning they have obstacles and they climb that mountain and they get over the obstacles where a lot of people would just sit down and give up. That's my person sitting down. Let's read that quote again from here. They deal with things and persevere through situations that most people would find insurmountable. So the students he's worked with, and who does he work with? Students who are first generation, probably poor or minority. Okay, first generation college students. He says they are the grittiest people he's ever met. And I'll tell you, that's one reason I like teaching ESL in English learners, is because I find many of these people are very gritty. They work very hard and they don't give up. Okay, who's he? The man behind Yes Academy. He's known students who get jobs to pay the bills when their parents are laid off, or figure out how to get the electricity back on when the power company shuts it off. So in other words, he knows students who are taking care of adult responsibilities in their house. And then they go to college and they're struggling with financial aid, or their financial aid didn't come through and they don't know what to do, he says. Some of them drop out when confronted with these kinds of challenges. He says they're not gritty enough when it comes to college. A question for Yes Prep and other charter schools Duckworth study is not necessarily how to get students to be gritty, but how to get them to be gritty about college completion. How do we get them to be gritty, not just about sports, but about their education? Which experiences do we give kids to get them in the direction of more grit and not less? Asked Duckworth. What experiences do we give them to be more gritty about college completion? One of the goals of Duckworth's research is to figure this out. Her current project began in the fall of 2011 and wrapped up in 2014.